Part 2. By the end of this segment, we aim for you to identify a focal point in your photograph, compose an image using the rule of thirds, compose an image using leading lines, and select the right time of day to take your photographs. We'll start with identifying the focal point. Before you even pick up the camera, the very first question you should ask yourself is, what's important in this picture? What do I want to take the viewer's attention? This can be a person, a tractor, a heifer, produce, anything like that. The important thing is to think through the process before you start taking photographs. This is called identifying the focal point. Once you've chosen your focal point, you'll want to isolate that subject from any distracting elements that will take attention away from the viewer's eye. For example, you would not want a tree trunk, branch, or power line coming out of a person's head. Other distracting objects could be bright signs, pipes, vehicles, or anything else that is competing for interest. The eye quickly goes to the subject of the photograph, and the focal point, this nursery worker, is free from distracting background elements. Now that you've selected your subject and removed any distracting backgrounds, it's time to start applying seasonings from our spice rack. The most basic and popular compositional rule is the rule of thirds. To best visualize the rule of thirds, divide your viewfinder into 9 equal boxes with 3 vertical lines and 3 horizontal lines running through the viewfinder. The goal is to place your focal point at the bottom, left, right, top left, or top right squares. Avoid placing objects in these center boxes. Let's take a look at this picture. As we overlay the grid over this image, you can see how the main subject is framed using the compositional rule of thirds. The rule of thirds creates movement for the eye across the page. It also allows space in a photograph to give it context, a place, or a story. The eye likes this composition, and it makes photographs interesting to view. Revisiting this photograph, you can see how the photographer composed the image using the rule of thirds. It helps create story, place, and movement throughout the photograph. Leading lines is another useful photographic tool for creating interesting images. This rule lends itself to agricultural photography remarkably well. We've discussed how interesting photographs cause the eye to move across the page. Leading lines use natural lines within the photograph to move the eye across the page. These lines could be straight like rows of corn or produce, or irregular like a curved road or a bolt of lightning. The important thing is that they move the eye across the page in your composition. Take a look at this example that utilizes leading lines very well. As you can see, the photographer uses the natural lines within the photograph to create interest and movement throughout the photography. The next question we will address is, when do I take my pictures? Light is foundational to a good photograph. If you consider the meaning of photography, photo is derived from the word light. Graph means to draw. So if you bring the word together, photography simply means drawing with light. No amount of Photoshop can add good lighting or take away bad lighting. Simply put, photographs must be taken in good light. In general, the best hours to take a picture are just after sunrise or within an hour of sunset. This is often called the golden hour because of the soft and warm light the sun gives during this time. Clouds or stormy weather can provide a challenge, but they can also create beautiful dramatic lighting with plenty of depth and interest. Often, the time right before or after a storm can give you amazing light. Avoid taking photographs in the midday hours. The light given off by midday sun is harsh, flat, and unflattering for almost every subject matter. So if you know you're going to be taking a picture, plan it around these times so that it will give you the best light. After all, light is paramount to a good photograph. So let's review. Identify your focal point before you take the picture. Avoid distractions in the background. The rule of thirds and leading lines can improve your composition. And if possible, schedule photos around sunrise and sunset.